How's it going, everybody? My name is Tommy Parnell, and today I just want to talk to you a little bit about build engineering, and what I mean by that is like being able to run your builds outside of Visual Studio, not just require Visual Studio all the time to press the build button. And why do we care about this kind of thing? The reality is that we're entering a world of continuous integration where things like Team City and Jenkins are really ruling the landscape. And we want to make sure that the builds that are in source control are going to build on anybody's computer, and that the unit tests are constantly being ran by a tool like Team City or Jenkins or Travis or AppVeyor, whatever you want to use. And this is to provide rapid feedback to the developer all the time. You commit something, it checks all the unit tests for you. But you can't have it just open up Visual Studio. We have to, Jenkins and these other tools run by the command line. And now, too, the wave of web development, you typically have, Grunt and Gulp and these other command line tools to process your JavaScript before you build or deploy them. And, you have to wire that into your build process. And, so you need a good framework to build things with. And, today I want to show you how to kind of do that in .NET. Do that with Rake, and which is a tool written in Ruby. So we'll be writing some Ruby code. I know you're saying like, how come I have to write in Ruby? And you don't have to. There's a thing called Cake and there's a thing called Fake. But I like Ruby as kind of a scripting-y language, and building is kind of scripty in a way. And Rake is really nice to work with, and it works very well with file systems and file paths, and I think that's a key feature that I want to leverage. So just to quickly show you before I get started, I made a solution here called BuildEng, and it's got two class libraries in them. One is BuildEng, and it contains like nothing but a simple class, and one is BuildEng unit tests, and this contains NUnit test adapters, so I can run my tests in Visual Studio still, and NUnit runners. And NUnit runners is a NuGet package that contains a console app that we can use to run our tests without having to use Visual Studio. And I've made this class with just the simple init test, and I can still run it in Visual Studio just like every other day. But we're gonna go from kind of pressing that button to like running it in a command prompt window, running it in a shell of some kind, and ultimately having, then ultimately you could wire it into Jenkins and have Jenkins do this kind of thing. So I've kind of gone ahead a little bit and kind of just made something that works, and I just want to go over it with you. I'm going to put all this code up on my GitHub. I'll put a link to it below, so you can click on the link and you can copy the code and do whatever you want. But I kind of pre-built this because building this on the fly sometimes can get a little hairy. So the first thing I've done is, just before we begin, those projects I have put in a subdirectory called src. Now how I did that is when I first made them, it put them on the top level, put them here in the top level next to the solution file, and I simply removed them from the solution and then copied their files into this src directory and then added them as an existing project. That's all I did, nothing fancy. So, in case you're not really familiar with the Ruby kind of setup and the Rake setup and all this stuff, sounds very complicated. The first thing you'll want to do is install the latest version of Ruby. Any version can work, but I'd suggest the latest. And then here's kind of like the scary part. So we want to open up a command prompt window, and then we want to. Right now we are in C users Parnell, which is my user directory. But the thing is we need to be in the root of our project. We need to be here, and the reason is Rake reads the files directly from where you're currently located. So we need to be here. So I'm gonna change directory to the BuildEng folder. Okay. And I open all this up in Atom. So first thing is I'm gonna gem install bundle. And what this is going to do is it's going to install a gem, which is like the Ruby version of a NuGet package. And that gem is the bundle gem. And what that allows us to do is it is kind of like a gem resolver. So what it will do is it will look at a file called the gem file and download the gems in the file. So I've gone ahead and made this gem file already, and it looks just like this. This is the file right here, and it says source is Ruby gems, and we have 4 gems here: Rake, OS, Albacore, and Noko Giri. I don't know if that's how I'm pronouncing it correctly or not, but that's the gem. So the gem we really care about is this Albacore gem. This is a gem that somebody wrote. You can find it on GitHub, but it basically wraps around MS Build and helps you build your .NET projects on Windows and Linux. So when I come to this directory, if I just type, now that I've got the bundle gem, if I just type bundle, bundle's going to go out and download those gems. Now that ran very quickly because I already have the gems installed locally, but it may take a little bit longer for you if you don't already have the gems installed. Okay. So I've gone ahead and made this Rake file, and I know this is a wall of code already, and I'm just going to like remove kind of this part. So we're going to start here with the require file. Now require is kind of like the Ruby version of a using statement. So I'm requiring Albacore, I'm requiring file utils, which is kind of part of the base library, if you want to call it, of Ruby. Require the OS gem, Noko Giri, OpenSSL, and you know, a few other things. So one thing I want you to show you first is I've made these constants. These are basically just fully qualified locations to the folders that we're going to use. So there's a packages folder, which is the actual packages where the NuGet packages get dropped right here. See, there's a tools, which is not a directory that can technically not exist at any given moment. So I'll just delete it just to show you. And then there's a NuGet one, which shows the path to NuGet. And then there's this configuration. I'll talk to you about this in a few minutes. And then I'll talk to you about clean in a few minutes too. So the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to do a build. And that is, we want to be able to compile our project, run an MS Build task. And I've gone ahead and written the code for this already. But basically, in the Albacore gem, there's a task called build. And I've named it, this is like this colon is called a symbol in Ruby. It's just like a special variable. And I've just named it compile, and I've said do, and then I'm getting this b. This b is just a variable here. This could be anything like, awesome. For some weird reason, I don't know why we'd call it awesome. But that is basically a variable that Albacore is going to inject here, and it's basically going to ask us for some things. And one of the things it's going to ask us for is the configuration. Do we want debug? Do we want release? And for now I'm just going to put release. And where's our solution file? And in this case I'm just giving it the name because we're on the top level. So if I come back into my shell and I run rake compile, this should work. It's running. It just ran MS Build. It just compiled the project for us, which is great. Okay, so this is all the code it takes. You don't need any of this other stuff to work. Look, you don't need any of this other code. Okay, this is it. This is the code right here. Rake compile, just like that. See, boom. All right. So what I've done is I've dropped in some kind of complicated code to download NuGet and then to install the packages, the NuGet packages. Okay, now I'm gonna put this code up on GitHub. So you can look at it yourself and download it yourself. But basically, I have made two tasks here. This is task, so that this is a Rake way of saying like this will be our own task. This will be something custom. Bootstrap, NuGet bootstrap. And this downloads NuGet because we don't know if we're gonna have the executable or not on wherever this runs. Okay, it's gonna be a brand new developer machine. And then I've made another task called fetch, which actually fetches the dependencies from NuGet, which actually fetches your NuGet packages, and it requires this arrow here. Is called a hash rocket, and I'm not really gonna go into teaching you a lot of Ruby, but basically in and I'm just saying like this requires this bootstrap first, okay? Uh, and
Sorry,
oh, there's Cortana. Okay, so uh, I've I've wrapped that up because we need to download NuGet. We need to download our NuGet packages. So if we don't have our NuGet packages, the builds don't work. Okay, so I've then wrapped this compile task in this other task here, which is called build. And build does retrieve and compile. And I made another task here, retrieve, which does the NuGet fetch. And we know that NuGet fetch has a dependency on NuGet bootstrap. So we'll get it all at the same time. And then the last thing we need to do is run NUnit. Okay, like this is the other part we need. And so I've written this task called test, and it does a retrieve because we need to retrieve our stuff. We also probably need to do a build, and then we need to run NUnit. And over here, here's the kind of the basic code for that. But pretty much, there's another thing in Albacore called test runner, and I've called this one NUnit, and it's going to give me this tests variable. And I've set the files to equal, and this is some Ruby code here, to get the file list of any DLLs with the word unit tests. So basically what I'm saying is look in this src directory, and then in any subdirectories, and then in any subdirectories that have the word unit tests, that end in the word unit tests. So if we look here real quick, src star unit tests, this is going to be here, and then go into the bin, and then based on our current configuration, just see debug and release here, get the unit test DLL. I know that seems really weird, but it's basically just a path to it. So we want to make sure that our build is in the same configuration. And this, by the way, this code here is just saying like either use an environment variable named configuration, so it, Jenkins could inject debug or release, or we could, and if it doesn't exist, just use release. So by default, we're just releasing. We're just using the release configuration. And so then I've written this other one called preflight, which just does everything, right? It's kind of like the do everything. Now I've added this other one called clean, and clean actually is part of Rake. I believe it's part of the Rake clean gem here. I can't be positive on that. I kind of forget. But up here, I've written this clean include. And basically, we're just deleting everything in src ***, which is like any level subdirectory, the object files and the bin files. And you know what? I'm going to also clean the tool directory, so we can download our tools fresh. And I want to clean packages ***. So we'll clean out any packages here. So when I run rake clean, it should delete all those things. See, we no longer have anything in packages. If I go into one of these, we don't even have those folders, which is fine. So if we do rake preflight, we should download NuGet from NuGet, install our packages, our NuGet packages, build, run our tests. Like here's our test run right here. So this should have the NuGet tool, this should have the packages, our source should now have bin directories, and that's just how it works. And that way now we can have Jenkins run this and then run the unit tests, and then we can go a step further. You can get more complicated with it, have it like run style cop, or there's another tool like lint tool for C# called gendarm, run JavaScript linting tools, and make sure that the code quality remains high, and then fail to build. So I just wanted to kind of show you that. I hope that it kind of made sense. I didn't really have a particular plan for it, but I think that this is kind of a good overview. I'll put this code up on GitHub. I'll put the link down below. You can download it yourself and enjoy it, and let me know if you have any questions.